Hey everybody, it's Tom Foster on the World of Marketing, and today I've got an awesome guest, Eric Bakey, who's a cartoonist. I've never had a cartoonist on the show before. So dude, you are my first cartoonist. Thank you so much. First of all, for coming on the show. Second of all, we're back in the new podcast studio, right, Thomas? So that's cool. So Eric, welcome and thank you.
Thank you for having me. We are a rare breed, and this building looks phenomenal. I appreciate you inviting me in here to press the flesh and try to get back to
exactly right.
Yeah.
After the pandemic,
right.
You know, exactly. Press the flesh. Thanks for coming. Well, you're in Old Town, so it made sense.
Yes, indeed.
And we met through Titans Mastermind. Our good buddy Brian Kurtz.
Brian Kurtz, legend in the direct response world, and was very gracious to have me illustrate his last mastermind. And that's where I heard your story, and I was like, well, we really need to follow up and connect after this.
I know, and we had our little group, and so I'm very interested myself. I always have been in the cartooning and the whole thing. I love cartoons. Okay, who doesn't like cartoons, right? But so tell me how somebody gets into cartooning. Tell me your story.
60-second life story, true to form, with a cartoonist or whatever have you. I joined the Army right after high school.
Oh, good for you. Thank you for your service.
It was an honor to serve, but they didn't teach me a whole lot more beyond like blowing stuff up and digging ditches. So getting into the civilian world was not a very lucrative or easy transition. So I pun intended, came up in the elevator business. Went from stacking steel and spinning wrenches in Baltimore, and just was like kind of hating my life. So I worked my way up and became like a construction manager, which brought me to DC. And still, I'm just like, is this really what I want to do with the rest of my life? And I have found that when I'm communicating with architects and engineers and my field crews, just drawing out like on a cardboard box, whatever the confusing, detailed plan, and like having to actually draw it out, like a way better, like that click happened. So it's visual communication.
Wow.
Started leaning into it, and really it was like I was.
So weren't you drawing as a kid?
Not really. No, I mean like
really.
Nothing more than doodles like any other kid would. So I really had to relearn. I have like no formal like art education whatsoever, and just had to like figure out how do you make this stuff work, and it's a continuous work in progress. And I'm just having fun with it, and figured out how to apply it to, like, if I want to get paid for this stuff, like you can either be a Van Gogh and this beautiful artist or whatever, and I'm like, I rather like I'm pretty far along in my career here. I can't just like quit and become an artist. I didn't really want to starve. So I was like, how can I apply this to making money for an organization? So, yeah.
This is so cool. So you're like a construction guy, like building stuff, mm-hmm. And through explaining to other construction guys, you know, here's the plan, drawing it out, you found that you had a talent there.
Right. Distilling down complicated ideas into simple visual stories was the magical, you know, the superpower that I had.
So when did you like say this is a business?
When enough people paid me more than I could in my 6-figure day job as an executive construction manager in the DC area. So I finally said, okay, let's really do this. I started going to conferences. I actually went to Renegade Millionaire as a gift from one of my clients, and like I drew the whole entire event out and used it as lead generation to, you know, get other business owners who were getting pregnant with these Dan Kennedy ideas.
Right.
Hey, well, you probably need somebody to execute on these ideas. How about you pay me $50 for my notes from the event, and I'll help you execute. I turned those leads into, you know. So it was just, well, wow, I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't realize, like, it's just like kind of all of a sudden happened. And I kind of wish I had figured that out before I started this whole journey. It would have made things a lot easier, but it's just been.
So that's true of all of us. All of us knucklehead entrepreneurs. We don't even know that we are an entrepreneur until years into it.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. So, all right. So you discover you have this talent. You go to Dan Kennedy School.
Right.
which is Dan Kennedy School is the best school for any marketer to go to. And so tell me a little bit about the business of like, how do you do it? Explain it.
Sure. So nobody really wants to pay for cartooning. And I would argue that they don't really want to pay for marketing.
Well, people don't want to pay
right.
for anything.
Right. So how do I make it fun to be around me first? And like, how do I actually turn it into money for them? Because when they cut me a check for, say, $10,000, I'm trying to give them 10 times the return, like as fast as possible.
Right.
Especially if I'm going to work with a smaller business, they're not just paying me to doodle for dollars. They want to like do something with this thing.
Right. That's what we're going to do when we're done with this podcast.
Well, so I mean, I would interview a CEO, owner of the business, and find out what really makes him tick. Why are you doing this? And try to uncover what is actually going on, like behind the words, like the emotional reasons. Uncover what his real story and reason for existing is, and then find out like what are your like dream come true customers, so that I'm not just going out and getting you more like leads of people, tire kickers, whatever. Find out who your real dream customer is. A lot of times you don't even know. Like I like working with these kinds of people. I kind of like doing this, but I don't really know. I'll sit there and we draw it out. And because I'm a cartoonist, I could draw a caricature of like your worst case scenario, best case scenario, and create a visual value proposition for what it is that you do.
Wow.
And through that, I'm like, okay, well, instead of this like scientifically validated marketing idea, why don't I just go try to sell some of your stuff to some people who might be a good fit, preferably unconverted leads or even people who have bought something from you before, so they already like trust you, and try to sell them your next thing. So recording and transcribing that becomes like the marketing story. Just like any good copywriter, it's marketing research. And I add some simple visuals, storytelling, and we can create a short visual story that sells. Yeah. You're
way more than just a cartoonist. So like, that's the cool thing here, everybody, is like Eric, like, so not only are you a very talented artist, right?
It could be argued, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but right. I mean, like that's a skill.
Yeah.
But you're able to get into people's heads and get their story down and help them sell their business, help them sell.
And the goal always is for them to kind of fall back in love with their business. And I try to approach it as an investor. Would I buy this person's business? Like a high level.
Yeah.
So it really, it gets me away from the client vendor kind of relationship. I partner with my clients and we align our incentives and we share the consequences of this marketing thing not working. And so yeah, it becomes much more, let's get literally on the same page. You do this, I'll do this, and we're going to create this outcome. It's a hypothesis. I think this is going to work.
That's
Do
so
you
cool.
validate this? We draw it out, and then we can make it prettier afterwards. And we've got all the technology, the whiteboard, webinar, this thing, test the marketing message small, and then you can roll it out just like you would with a direct mail campaign, whatever. And the value of using illustrations and this kind of thing is that it scales. Like you can put it on Instagram. You could put that thing onto a post.
Yeah.
You can do all these different things. I create this large, like say 11 by 17 poster or whatever, and we can pull out each one of these images and we can even turn them into an illustrated business book, which is what I've done for several other big brand name clients.
So tell me about that. So tell me about some of these projects.
Well, so one of my buddies, I thought I wanted to just totally niche down and say veteran-owned small businesses. That was like the niche I started in. And so when you start flagging that, like waving that flag, vetrepreneurs, whatever. And so a buddy of mine owns a very successful Chick-fil-A and multi-unit franchise operation, and it's actually harder to become it's like one of the hardest things you could possibly do. And he was a Army Ranger officer, instructor, like he's just a certified badass. And so he also has a consulting business around lean, continuous improvement kind of stuff. So very vague idea. And he had already written a book and has this this business of like this very intangible thing. But really the big benefit for him was that he had 100-some employees that were all 16-year-old kids who don't really want to work in this area. And it's like, how do you get a 16-year-old kid making work for minimum wage and actually like stick around. So
Right.
anyway, so we used cartoons to onboard these people and get them to stick for longer and longer in his organization. So his retention rate was some of the best in the entire organization of their 140,000 some employees.
For Chick-fil-A?
For Chick-fil-A. So they adopted the book.
Which is like the best franchise out there.
Right. So he is a certified badass. Fun to be around for me. Like, so again, I'm trying to not be a cobbler's shoes kind of situation. I wanted to work with people that I really like to be around, that I respect, and I want to learn from and partner with. So we write and illustrate this book, and we market it to Chick-fil-A as an organization, which they commit to buying. They have 140,000 and growing employees, so that's a baked-in audience. And then we can also market that to fast casual restaurants all across the country. And so like that book becomes a Bible, if you were, for his whole entire purpose. And then it's a self-reinforcing wheel. So I mean, books are great products for a back-end product and vice versa. So, but no one wants to read a book. It's so much easier to like flip through and have like an illustrated concept and like a fun cartoon to make it stick in your brain. So it's like, it's not just like a hardcore PowerPoint infographic or whatever. It's a hand-drawn with personality and illustrating a concept and telling a story instantly. So that's what one case scenario.
This is very cool, guys. Yeah. Very cool, Eric. Well, I'm really excited about doing our project, which I want to talk to you about. So, all right. So tell me about another project. Tell me about another. What did you do for Brian?
For Brian, so he has very expensive mastermind. I don't know if he talks about how much it is, but
it's very expensive, everybody. Both Eric and I are in it, and we love it.
But I always found that there's a lot of the speakers are talking about all this cool stuff, but you never, and you filled up a notebook full of notes, but do you ever really go back to it? Probably not. Like I've got bookshelves full of stuff. So boring books and boring notes that I never go back to. I spend all this money on this stuff, so it's kind of like, what do I even do with this? So I create these posters. I call it direct response doodles, and I've done this for all these info products. I'll turn them into like physical product, like a physical, tangible cheat sheet, if you were, or a treasure map, or all kinds of different. You can turn it into a bunch of different buzzwords. But I take this very expensive concept, turn it into cartoons, and you can turn it into like little booklets for retention to keep them coming back. So now that value of the cartoon, if I can keep just one person coming back the next year, is worth X amount of dollars, customer lifetime value. If they stick for 2 or 3 years because they get continuous cartoons or whatever, you can also break it out to get people who have been in his smaller Titans Accelerator group to and you can take
to ascend
that little illustrated book, like a yearbook, if you were, and market it back to those people to raise up. And so you create these. I sit in. I get paid to learn from people that are doing things now, distill that information to share it with people who I would also like to do business with, and then use it as a marketing collateral piece to continuously. The purpose of business is to create a customer for life. And
for sure.
I'm just trying to grow through being somebody who's worth knowing instead of spending a whole bunch of money on advertising, just kind of showing up unlike anybody else and try to create value.
Well, it's referral business, right? And what you do is so cool. So one of the things that we like to talk about here in the world of marketing is mistakes. So, we're talking about advertising and whatnot. What is one of the biggest mistakes that you've made?
Well, I've made pretty much every possible mistake.
Right.
As
have I.
When I first made the entrepreneurial leap, I was trying to be a copywriter or a marketer or whatever, like kind of everybody, I don't know if everybody, but that's how I started, was trying to just kind of market myself as a copywriter. And I went into that world of the long copy world and making all kinds of promises and all kinds of like claims, and just basically give me, $47 for this newsletter and money will shoot out of your computer and whatever. Or take these pills and magically like the weight will just fall off and everybody will come running to it. The typical get paid, get laid, live forever kind of message. And when you lead with that kind of stuff, you get really bad customers.
Right. Yes.
When you promise wizardry and make all kinds of crazy claims, you get yourself in a little bit of trouble. You put yourself at risk anyway, and you kind of attract the wrong kind of people for lifetime relationships. And so my big mistake was I didn't think about who I really wanted to be the hero to, a coach term. But I didn't really think about who do I want in my world. I was just trying to make money. And there's a lot of ways to make money, especially in the wild west of internet marketing. So you got to be really careful with who you try to attract, who you're trying to sell to, because it will come back. There's no good deed goes unpunished, and when you put out
that's why you have to niche yourself. There's riches and niches. And so do you feel like you've now niched yourself a little bit better?
I have.
You said you were working with veterans. What did you call them?
Vetrepreneurs. Yeah.
Vetrepreneurs. That's a new one. Or maybe not. Maybe I've heard that before. Vetrepreneurs. But that's good. You know, I'm a veteran. I was in the Marines.
I did see that. Thank you for your service.
Yeah. Well, thank you, buddy. But that was a long time ago. I was in 85 to 91.
I was born in 1985. So.
All right.
I got gray hair coming on my beard, but
that's cool. All right. So that was kind of that's when you decided, like, I'm going to focus on these guys.
I'm going to stop being like everybody else.
Right.
Let me differentiate myself. Let me not show up like anybody else.
That's a great lesson for everybody, is to find a great niche that you can relate to, because you're a veteran yourself.
Right. And it's really like, do I respect these people, and do I want to be known for like creating results for these people over a long period of time? I had to shift from being a marketing mercenary and like a pirate going out to claim land,
marketing pirate,
to more of a gardener or a farmer and cultivating relationships. And it was the shift from being a hardcore sales guy to a ethical marketer or a mission-driven marketer. I don't know. I'm still kind of playing around with the verbiage, but it was a total paradigm shift when I realized, like, what have I done here? Like, I've created this business that I don't like. I don't like how I'm showing up in the world. I can't show my mom this kind of stuff. And I was just like, well, I don't like any of what I'm doing, so I gotta have to kind of start over again. And that's what I've done with.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been full-time entrepreneur for like 5 years, I guess.
Really? That's it?
Yeah. Yep. You can go back on like my Instagram or Facebook and see that, like, I was a garbage illustrator.
So when did you get out of the Army?
I was completely done everything, because I stayed around the National Guard and everything. In 2011, I've been done for a while.
Okay. But then you were, after that, you were doing the construction stuff and all that, and that's when you found yourself here.
I found myself scraping human filth out of a pit in Baltimore. I'm like, maybe I should figure something else to do with myself. But
so how did you wind up in Old Town?
I was running one of the largest vertical transportation projects in the history of the nation for WMATA. They're an escalator specialist, all kind of in the same umbrella, if you were, and was doing a massive modernization in the DC Metro. And they brought me down here from Baltimore, and just climbing the typical corporate ladder. I just wasn't paying attention to what building that ladder was leaned against, and kind of just found myself hustling consulting gigs and trying to make money online and doing all this crazy stuff, like in 25 different directions, instead of just being focused on the one thing.
So is there a website that we can send people to see some examples of your work?
You can find me at on Instagram, Eric.Bakey, for a whole bunch of, I post pretty much a direct response doodle daily. That's kind of the goal. I do have ericbakey.com, and I'm also on LinkedIn, same name, Eric with a C. Okay.
So that's the best way for people to check you out and say, this is a guy I want to work with.
They all see. I'm mostly by referral. I just try to like with the,
because it's you. I mean, it's me. It's just you, right?
If you want me to, if there's.
You do one project at a time.
Right. There's a buying criteria. There are way cheaper ways to get a cartoon onto a piece of paper. Way cheaper ways to do it. But you're going to.
But you're doing something different.
Well, it could be argued. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're doing something completely different. Mm-hmm. Like when we first started this thing, I think I'm interviewing a cartoonist, but you're an artist that is actually developing. The copy is the art. You're taking the art and you're combining the copy with that. You're telling the story through that. That's why I'm really excited about seeing what we can do together.
It's a visual model that I like to call mental dynamite. Once you see it, it burns a hole in your brain and it sets you apart from anybody else. You see that person does this thing that is different. The way that they solve that problem is instantly understandable, and they can't go out in the market and get it anywhere else. And that's why I give that kind of gift with my clients, and that's why I don't like calling it clients. We partner for success, because if I can't get you results, you shouldn't have to pay me. Like, that's the way I view it. And I try to, if I could only get paid if I got you results, like that's kind of that's the business model. So
very good, man. Okay, so email address for people to email you?
Eric at ericbakey.com.
Okay, Eric, brother, it's been great to get to know you better. I'm looking forward to talking to you more after this podcast about how you can help foster web marketing, because I'm super excited about this. And everybody, if you want to talk to Eric, shoot him an email, right?
I'm not hard to find, yeah.
And check him out on Instagram. We'll put all the information in the description below. You got any parting words?
I think what you're doing is fantastic, internet marketing, and much more. It's more like you can get a website built basically for free. So the way that you educate and show up so much differently than the typical web marketing firm, and you've niched with your marketing for lawyers. Like, I just think what you're doing is beyond impressive, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you better.
Well, thanks, buddy. Thank you, Eric. All right, everybody, it's Tom and Eric, the world of marketing. We'll see you next time.